I want to talk about kind of a funny interview. It was really telling that I heard last week. For those who don't know, I listen to a lot of Philadelphia sports talk radio in my spare time. Walking around the class or in the gym, listening to podcasts or whatever. And my favorite listen, who's really got me into sports radio in the first place, Mike Missanelli.
Brindy, how you doing, man?
He conducted an interesting interview on his show last week, mid last week, with Flyers player Zac Rinaldo, who fourth line center. He of course last week he got suspended for a hit to the head. He hit someone in the head, and it ended up in ultimately a 4-game suspension, which were the rest of the regular season games that the Flyers had left on the schedule. And I've talked about on this show before the Flyers play and the mentality, the grind, the rough mentality, and the tendency to get a lot of penalties and unnecessary penalties at that. And last week, Mike Missanelli, he doesn't hold back in his interviews. He doesn't kiss anyone's behind or whatever because they play for the Flyers or Philadelphia or whatever. He really called out his play style, Zac Rinaldo's play style, and his tendency to get unnecessary penalties. I thought it was funny because Zac Rinaldo says the way he plays today is the same way he played as a kid, and this and that. And when you're a kid, though, you can't in youth hockey and stuff like that. Some of the things that you see in the NHL, that stuff can't happen in youth hockey and fighting, unnecessary fighting. You get thrown out of the game essentially in youth hockey from what I remember in my days of playing youth hockey. But nevertheless, Zac Rinaldo, I went through the statistics of the league leaders, and he's fourth in penalty minutes as far as players are concerned. And Mike Missanelli, kind of called out how I guess Zac Rinaldo, he tries to get other teams frustrated. He tries to egg them on and get instigate them and get other players on the other team into trouble and get them in the penalty box, to give the Flyers a main advantage. But I kind of look at this and, again, I look up the results and I see he's, the fourth highest penalty minutes guy in the league. And I'd say that theory, that ideology is kind of backfired if you look at it that way. Mike Missanelli said how as they get in the playoffs, they're going to be, you can't be taking unnecessary penalties and stuff like this. And, it's funny because Zac Rinaldo even, kind of claimed how, it's like the referees in the NHL seem to have it out for him and seem to, he disagrees with a lot of the penalties that they call on him and this and that. And yet, he decides to get in fights and this and that. And, it's just kind of overall unnecessariness, if that's even a word. But he traded shots with Zac Rinaldo essentially, and some of the responses that Zac Rinaldo was giving Mike Missanelli was, Mike Missanelli was having a hard time not laughing at some of his responses. At times, Zac Rinaldo kind of sounded like a kid, and again, I continue to say how skill players ultimately is what the game comes down to. It doesn't matter how many hits you deliver in a game, and Mike Missanelli kind of echoes these thoughts in a way. When it comes to the Boston Bruins, a team who has, I believe I looked at the stat chart, and the Bruins have nobody in the top four. They don't have. There's a top 40 list of players with penalty minutes. And as good as the Boston Bruins are, the best team in the league, they had no player on that top 40 list of people who get in the box more than anybody else in the league. So, I think that theory's kind of backfired if you think about it. That Zac Rinaldo play style, and again, Mike Missanelli, kind of called him out on this, and he said, as you get in the NHL playoffs, you can't take these kind of unnecessary penalties. So you kind of watch out for that, and certainly when you're going to play some potentially really good disciplined teams, I mean, you can't get away with foolish penalties. So that's that. And I think it was also funny how that the next day they had as he was sending them off, he had a game, or the Flyers had a game against the Tampa Bay Lightning the next day, and Mike Missanelli said, "Good luck, against the Tampa Bay Lightning tomorrow. Even though you're suspended and not playing, So I mean, it's kind of a humorous send off there in that interview, and kind of telling in a way."